out. Virtual stage, but the spotlight dim. Many clicking past, ain't feeling his hymn. Waiting for the moment, blow up like a piston. Haters gonna hate, but persistence gonna glisten. Hold tight, 20 turn to 100 someday. Laugh in their face, shouting, who wants some pay? on the Copper Show.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, Twitch? What up, Larry? What up, one guy? What up, Michael? What up, PETA? What up, Aaron? What up, Cosmic? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, Stampy? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. Start you off with a little Stampy snack time. Nice job, Larry. All right. Your reminder, there will not be an evening stream today. There will not be a stream on Monday morning. I will be gone for the weekend and like that. And he's out. Also, for those of you who are members of the James Gang, shout out Tito for pulling through. Tito is home. Tito appears happy. James appears happy. I assume Dr. Mrs. from the internet is happy. So excellent. Very happy to hear that. All right. Let's get into the news. David Sachs, this fucking guy, says overly strict U.S. export controls may backfire because China's AI models are just months behind. There are always alternative ways to do stuff. China is closing the AI gap fast, and the U.S. must rethink its chip export controls if it wants to stay ahead, says David Sachs, the White House AI and crypto czar. In a Bloomberg television interview published on Wednesday, Sachs said that the U.S. should be mindful of the speed at which Chinese companies are catching up in the AI race, despite the chip export rules in place. Even though China is supply constrained on the number of chips it can produce, Sachs said he expects that to change quickly. Back in January, we had this DeepSeek moment where before DeepSeek, people thought that Chinese AI models were years behind. And then DeepSeek launched, and we realized that maybe they're more like 3 to 6 months behind. And Jensen Huang says they're not behind at all. Sachs added that he thinks China might be 1.5 to 2 years behind the U.S. in chip design, but companies like Huawei are moving fast to catch up. Even before they fully caught up, I think you will see them exporting their chips for the global market, adding that this could cause the U.S. to lose its edge. If we're overly restrictive in terms of U.S. sales to the world, I think there'll be a time where we're kind of kicking ourselves when all of a sudden Huawei is everywhere. We'll be saying, well, wait, when we had this whole market to ourselves, why didn't we take advantage of the opportunity and lock in the American tech stock? Other tech leaders have similarly highlighted concerns with U.S. export controls, which often hit their businesses' bottom lines. During the Computex Taipei Tech Conference in May, NVIDIA's Jensen Huang slammed U.S. chip export control rules because they encouraged Chinese tech development. The export control gave them the spirit, the energy, and the government's support to accelerate their development. So I think, all in all, the export control is a failure. He added that Nvidia's market share in China has decreased to 50%, down from 95% 4 years ago. Bernstein analysts said in an April note that banning Nvidia chips is unlikely to stop Chinese AI progress, as Chinese firms are turning to domestic alternatives in Huawei. In the longer run, expect Huawei to keep closing the gap in performance in Chinese foundational models, making up for compute deficiency with DeepSeek like innovation. We were right, chat. We were right. At this point, even if they were to ease up on the controls, why wouldn't China just stay the course and release models as they already planned? Yes, the idea is American firms could pull ahead if American businesses aren't handicapped by tariffs on Chinese goods. To an extent, the other thing is that you, by instituting the export controls, you establish not only to the market of people that you have the controls on, but also the rest of the market, that at any point in time, the United States might decide to turn the dial back the other way. So even at this point, if the United States turns that export control dial way down, the world knows that, like, it could turn it back on at any time. Therefore, having alternative sources for your supply chain is the probable best way to go. The United States might still be the best, right, for a given value of all that, but diversity of supply is, in the long run, superior. You know what I mean? The trust is gone, right? The trust is gone. So yeah. What up, Tiny? So basically, these tariffs are the best thing to happen to innovation on the global scale since the advent of World's Fairs. Maybe. It's definitely like it allows more players into the space, right? Um, this goes all the way back to, like, this is the same complaint I had post Berlin Wall, when the United States didn't execute some kind of Marshall Plan type thing for Russia, right? That when you have a collapse of a particular socioeconomic system, you need to, like, so I understand the that there are other purposes to the Marshall Plan, right? What up, Fancy Pudding? The Marshall Plan, one of the reasons for the Marshall Plan was not just to establish United States economic hegemony, but also to prevent a post World War One scenario from happening again, right? Post World War One, Germany was punished, like severely punished, for their part in the war, and with its economic instability and everything else that went on, it created an environment that led to, the rise of the Nazi Party and World War II. So the Marshall Plan was also to, like, build everyone back up so that that instability in Europe didn't happen again. The same type of thing should have happened with the fall of the Soviet Union. Was like, not only reaching out with an olive branch to, like, smooth those old Cold War contentions away, but also to economically build that up. And again, like, if you're against, the thing and just whatever, but the point is that, like, from the United States point of view as far as strategy, and from a world stability point of view, that would have been the move. But instead, they just went hands off, and everything ended up the way that it did. There's a way to go about things from a strategic point of view, but if you're into weird dominance matrix bullshit, then you end up with what we have today, which doesn't work, obviously. All right, let's talk about some AI and climate. Advanced AI models generate up to 50 times more CO2 emissions than more common LLMs when answering the same question. Which is interesting because, as far as I can tell, there's no actual CO2 being produced by data centers. So that CO2 must be tied to something else. And let's take a look. The more accurate we try to make AI models, the bigger their carbon footprint, with some prompts producing up to 50 times more carbon dioxide emissions than others, a new study has revealed. Reasoning models such as Claude O3 and DeepSeek's R1 are specialized large language models dedicating more time and computing power to produce more accurate responses than their predecessors. Yet, aside from some impressive results, these models have been shown to face severe limitations in their ability to crack complex problems. Did it? Is this the Apple paper? Did you do the thing? No. This link doesn't. Oh. Yes, it's the Apple paper. Again. Now, a team of researchers has highlighted another constraint on the model's performance: their exorbitant carbon footprint. They published their findings June 19th in the journal Frontiers in Communication. The environmental impact of questioning trained LLMs is strongly determined by their reasoning approach, with explicit reasoning processes significantly driving up energy consumption and carbon emissions. So the carbon emissions must be related to the energy consumption. Because, again, as far as I know, other than like you can make arguments about the production of a data center and the carbon footprint of a data center in its construction, which fair. But as far as the data center itself, they don't generate carbon dioxide. It's the energy consumption that drives carbon dioxide. So let's see about that. We found that reasoning-enabled models produced up to 50 times more CO2 emissions than concise response models. To answer the prompts given to them, LLMs break up the language into tokens. You know this. Reasoning models further attempt to boost accuracy using a process known as chain of thought. You know this. However, these models have significantly higher energy demands than conventional LLMs. And that goes back to a January. Right, this is in the way. I can't look at it. But that DeepSeek might not be as good on energy. Thanks for that. Posing a potential economic bottleneck for companies and users wishing to deploy them. Yet, despite some research into economic impacts, here's what the world can do about those environmental impacts. All right. Despite some research into environmental impacts of growing AI adoption more generally, comparisons between the carbon footprints of different models remain relatively rare. This is a problem, right? This is a problem in transparency, right? It's one of the reasons we have people being able to put out papers about the energy use of any particular model, and no one, like it being challenging to argue against it or even for it, if you know, is because there's no transparency. We don't have actual numbers, so it's like, we're waving shit. This is unbelievable. There are plenty of good ways to generate electricity that do not add to the carbon footprint. The whole should be pursued at great speed. This is my point, Cosmic. That's what I was trying to get to. That's what I figured when they were talking about carbon emissions. They must be relating that to energy production. I put a new Wendover video on AI energy use fearmongering in the video suggestions Discord. Thank you, Larry. I mean, if we covered every parking lot in the country with solar panels, we'd have a near limitless and help cool our city. Tiny. Tiny, the new clean energy czar, right? Like, from your lips to Trump's ears. Like, what are we even doing? The Frontiers Communication Study was one of the articles I put in the Discord. No wonder why it sounded familiar. Yeah. To examine the CO2 emissions produced by different models, the scientists behind the new study asked 14 LLMs 1,000 questions, so we like that, right? The different models have between 7 and 72 billion parameters. We like that, right? Like it's a broad study. We like that. The computations were performed using blah, 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 it doesn't matter. The team then converted energy use into CO2 by assuming each kilowatt hour of energy produces 480 grams of CO2. Okay, so we're making an assumption right here. So it completely ignores anything, any form of energy production. Yeah, when we make an assumption, you make an ass out of you an umption, right? That's what happens. The shout out Samuel L. Jackson. The this doesn't have to be the case. Exactly, one guy. Exactly. This is the point. This is what I expected to get to, and we have, right? So I wonder if we can find out. Not right now. Thank you. Yeah. So looking at the U.S. Energy Information Administration, how much carbon dioxide is produced per kilowatt hour of U.S. electricity generation? Here's coal. Yeah, metric tons and short tons and pounds per kilowatt hour, right? And we got coal, we got natural gas, we got petroleum, and then we have all other energy sources. Cool. Cool. All other energy sources produce 0.81 pounds of CO2 per kilowatt hour. So that's where we're at. The results showed that on average, reasoning models generated 543.5 tokens per question compared to just 37 0.7 tokens for more concise models. These extra tokens, amounting to more computations, mean that more accurate reasoning models produced more energy requirements that, under certain conditions, produced more CO2. And that's what it comes down to. And it doesn't even say here what, because the most accurate model that they used was the 72 billion parameter Cogito model with an 84.9% on the benchmark questions. Cogito released, look at this statement, Cogito released 3 times the CO2 emissions of similarly sized models made to generate answers more concisely. What a fucking bullshit statement. Right? Again, it's power demand, right? Not CO2 generation, it's power demand. The power demand could be could be satisfied through coal, it could be satisfied through natural gas, it could be satisfied through nuclear, it could be satisfied through solar, it could be satisfied through geothermal. I'm just reading, I'm not making, I don't mean anything, Cosmic. I'm saying the words that are in front of me. This says kilowatt hour, right? This here says pounds per kilowatt hour. I'm only reading what it says. I don't mean anything other than reading the words on the paper. You can feel free. Here's the thing that I'm looking at. So what models did you use where Cogito is, or Cogito? I don't know how to spell. Cogito is what I'm going to go with. Where's your... where are your list of models that you use? You said you used 14 models, but Cogito was the most accurate. Did you not use? First phase, models receive the question accompanied by 4 multiple choice. For standard text generation models such as Qwen, Llama, and Cogito. Okay, so they used open source model. Oh, no. They did. To assess the correctness of the responses, we used the fast, cost-effective OpenAI O4 mini reasoning model as an evaluator. So they were evaluating open source models and use the fast, cost-effective OpenAI O4 mini reasoning model. Interesting. Can you just give me the list? No, of course not. That would be easy. Qwen 2.5, Cogito 70B. Although this study compares a diverse range of language models with varying architecture, training datasets, parameter counts, and reasoning routines, the findings are not easily transferable to other model families. Due to these structural and architectural differences, generalizing the results to models with significantly different designs is limited. Moreover, the current findings do not allow for reliable conclusions about the behavior of much larger LLMs, several hundred billion parameters. To draw robust conclusions about the relationship between the CO2 emissions, the CO2 equivalent emissions, they do note that right here, and accuracy at this scale, the models would need to be included in future analysis. It should also be noted that all emissions were measured under a specific hardware and energy profile, The NVIDIA A100 80 gigabyte GPU in an emission factor of 480 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. These values depend heavily on the chosen infrastructure and local energy grid, and results may vary significantly with different hardware setups or emission baselines. Therefore, the CO2 equivalent results presented here cannot be directly extrapolated to other systems. So, our headline is advanced AI models generate up to 50 times more CO2 emissions than more common LLMs when answering the same question. The accurate reading of the thing is under very specific conditions, this can be true. What up, Senator? Amount of CO2 produced per kilowatt hour of power production varies significantly. Yeah, no, we're all on the same page, I think, at this point. I saw a few days ago there's people competing to see what prompts can make an AI reasoning model that gets stuck in reasoning for the longest time. One guy managed to get Grok to keep going for 8 days with just one prompt. Nice. Yeah, now go ahead and extrapolate away, baby. All right. What else we got? ChatGPT isn't great for the planet. Here's an article behind a paywall that talks more about that. There's no way that this is some clickbaity bullshit, right? Here's how to use AI responsibly. You're not wrong, Senator. You're not wrong. AI is straining power grids and producing harmful emissions. No. Again, the AI the AI is doing none of these things, right? The data centers are straining power grids because power grids have not been updated since whenever the fuck somebody thought it was a good idea to update that particular power grid. A lot of our power grid in a variety of different spaces is unfortunately old, right? I remember somebody talking, what was it, like 30 years ago? There was the power grid around Ohio because we had a large blackout, and how the power grid around Ohio wasn't, it needed to be updated, right? But again, if there's no profit incentive or no government subsidy, then why are they going to update, right? Like, and producing harmful emissions. Again, while there you can make arguments that the production of a data center does produce some harmful emissions, etc., the what they're probably referring to here is CO2. And if they're referring to CO2, it's a problem of energy generation. If it's a problem of any energy generation, we have solutions. But again, it does require, you know, motivation. It requires incentives. Yeah, it has to do with the difference, Larry, between inference, which is when you use a chatbot to ask questions, and training. Training requires significantly more energy. It's basically always on, right? Like you know, the power usage of your home PC, if you leave it on all the time, is higher than if you only turn it on when you need to use it, right? If you care about the environment, this is Nicholas Rivero. If you care about the environment, it can be hard to tell how you should feel about using AI models such as ChatGPT in your everyday life. The carbon cost of asking an AI model a simple text question can be measured in grams of CO2. It can be, which is something like 0.0000001% of an average American's annual carbon footprint. A query or two or 1,000 won't make a huge dent over the course of the year. But those little costs start to add up when you multiply them across 1 billion people peppering AI models with requests for text, photo, and video. The data centers that host these models can devour more electricity than entire cities. Citation needed. Predictions about their rapid growth have pushed power companies to extend the lives of coal plants. No, 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 and build new natural gas. No, no one pushed the companies to do anything. They made a choice. Joe Brandon, his EPA had a whole plan in place that was going to end up causing all the coal powered plants in the United States to shutter within the next few years, right? Because it wasn't cost effective in order to renovate them for like $1 billion in order to get them compliant with green energy initiatives, right? But then the other guy got in there. So much drama in the DMV. We have the FiOS paradox, where the area grid has been updated because of government interest. However, pause for effect, the supply transmission systems have not been updated in a decade or 5. Kind of like when Verizon laid fiber optic cable to each house, then it hit the house's outdated R1 cable system. Yeah. AI analyzing and reasoning is far more expensive on resources than just answering questions. Yes, that was the point behind this article. The companies are the ones out here in Texas building where there aren't electrical lines and are all, no problem, we'll build our own gas plant. Yes, but there's a solution to that. Connect them to the grid, right? There's a bunch of shenanigans in Texas that is both like you have stuff like the Grok Center, which isn't in Texas. It's in Virginia, Georgia, one of them southern states there. And they fired up the what you call it? They fired up the gas powered generators that they brought on site. And I think that should have been taken into consideration. Geothermal where appropriate, right? Geothermal where appropriate. I'm a fan of geothermal where appropriate. Predictions about their rapid growth have pushed power companies to extend the lives of coal plants, and no, they haven't. Keeping those computers cool uses fresh water, about one bottle's worth for every 100 words of text ChatGPT generates, depending on how yes or no. Also, whatever. Do I need to go over the closed loop system? Do I need to do that again? And do I need to talk about how the water is released back into the system? And there's even a solution for that. There's probably some way that you could cap the chillers, right? Because the chillers produce the condensation, which produces the moisture that disappears into the atmosphere, and may or may not come back down in the local area, etc., etc. I feel like you should be able to recapture that water as well. But I don't know what the process is, so I don't want to go too far in that. I feel your reports, not my report, I don't write reports, is overstating values in order to get effect on their premise. They absolutely are, which was the entire point of that previous segment, Cosmic. That's exactly when I laid everything out. I laid out my argument clearly in order to get that point across. So thank you for getting it. You should totally write reports. Why would I want to write reports? That sounds horrid. One of the big points made in that Wender video is that when these data centers detect a hiccup in the electrical grid, they immediately swap over to on-site uh, on-site energy production or batteries in the electrical grid has trouble dealing with that sudden loss of load. Yeah, no, that could be a thing. Like, I think that's really what the Spanish blackout taught us, right? Like, is you need to make sure that you balance that shit properly. And it can be done. You just have to be able to do it, right? And it's a combination of um like solar panels and wind generation, battery technology, which we're not where we should be, but hopefully we're going in the right direction. Um, and then turbine driven energy production, like geothermal where appropriate, and hydroelectric where appropriate, and nuclear where appropriate, which given the power density of nuclear is just about everywhere. People who write real reports make a lot of money. No, people who write useful reports can make a lot of money. Telling people who don't want to hear what you have to say is not conducive to a long thing. Sure, Cosmic. That's political will, baby. It doesn't mean you have to shun the technology entirely, according to computer scientists who study AI's energy consumption, but you can be thoughtful about when and how you use AI chatbots. Use AI when it makes sense to use it. Don't use AI for everything, says Gudrun Stoker, a computer science professor at Munich University of Applied Sciences. For basic tasks, you may not need AI, and when you do use it, you can choose to use smaller, more energy efficient models. For simple questions, this is my point, is we need to take this decision making process out of the hands of the user, right? Because the user often, not always, the user often doesn't understand all of the nuance between one model and another, right? The user, your average person, right? Not necessarily someone who's hip deep in AI and what models. Um exactly, Larry. And this is the point, right? To that point, Larry, um we need to take that decision out of the hands of your average consumer. Should you be able to select the model you want to use? Sure, right? Because some people know what they're doing, but a lot of people don't know what they're doing. And your prompt should determine what model gets used, right? Without you having to necessarily make the choice. You should be able to type in your prompt as a user, and then it will go into like a frontline AI model that will kind of analyze your prompt. And they're already doing this, right? They already have there's like an AI that looks at your prompt and kind of rewrites it, make sure it falls within its guardrails, and does its best to kind of analyze the question that you're actually trying to ask to get you the best outcome, right? So just extend that to making the choice of the model which is appropriate to use for this. This is a relatively simple question. You're using an AI for in place of a search engine, so it can just provide you with an answer, right? So let's use the simple, fast model, etc. But then everyone's out here going, "Oh, AI hallucinates all the time," and what is best against hallucinations is when the reasoning model does its reasoning plus a verification process, and then that uses a whole lot more energy to tell you whether or not pickles are good on pizza, right? If you were running video tonight, you would be showing Nate Jones' latest message on this very subject. Probably because Nate Jones responds to the news in the same way that I do. So, um, y'all can either go out and Michael McAllister does a great job of assembling content into the Discord. Y'all can go look at the Discord there. There's also all the videos that have been that I've used for the stream. Those are also in the Discord. So by going to any of those, you can trace that back to the creator who made that, including Nate Jones, and you can watch the videos that way. Or I will be covering whatever I can on Monday evening. So, exactly, Larry. Hell, I follow this stuff often and I don't always know which model is best for a given prompt. Yeah. Yeah. And Nate is actually done and Fancy Pudding gets the Substack. Thank you. Thank you for being a member. Yeah, Nate has done a couple of videos actually about the about which model you should use, right? Like and like that. And Nate has a Substack. It's just not free. Nate. For simple questions such as finding a store's hours or looking up a basic fact, you're better off using a search engine or going directly to a trusted website than asking an AI model, Soger says. A Google search takes about 10 times less energy than a ChatGPT query, according to a 2024 analysis from Goldman Sachs, which used inaccurate information. This is the thing, man. Like, I just. Oh, no. Although that may change as Google makes AI responses a bigger part of your search. It also may change if you actually like understand how all the assumptions that went in. Oh wow. Took me right there. All the assumptions that went into this paper, right? A whole bunch of assumptions that went in here. Yeah, they didn't hyper. I mean, there's a hyperlink here, but I'd like a good underline for the hyperlink, right? So you know where, like, especially if you're looking on a mobile. For now, a determined user can avoid prompting Google's default AI generated summaries by switching over to the web search tab, which is one of the options alongside images and news. Adding minus AI in quotes to the end of a search query also seems to work. Other search engines, including DuckDuckGo, give you the option to turn off AI summaries. If you have a thornier problem, especially one that involves summarizing, revising, or translating text, then it's worth using an AI chatbot, Soger says. For some tasks, using AI might actually generate less CO2 than doing it yourself, according to Bill Tomlinson, a professor of informatics at the University of California at Irvine. The real question isn't, does AI have impact or not? Yes, it clearly does. The question is, what would you do instead? What are you replacing? Good man, Mr. Tomlinson. An AI model can spit out a page of text or an image in seconds, while typing or digitally illustrating your own versions might take an hour on your laptop. Okay, this is this thing which pissed a lot of people off. In that time, a laptop or a human worker will cause more CO2 pollution than an AI prompt, according to a paper Tomlinson co-authored last year. And this is one of those examples of I only like the science when the science agrees with me, rather than let's look at what the science is and make our determination there. Right? A bunch of people reacted to this paper talking like just they were unhappy. They do not want to hear that the AI can be more what up, Reed? Can be more energy efficient than the production of all the tools that they use to create text and art, etc. Without AI. Let's put it that way. Right? Our findings reveal that AI systems emit between 130 and 1,500 times less CO2 per page of text generated compared to human writers, while AI illustration systems emit between 310 and 2,900 times less CO2 per image than their human counterparts. Emissions analysis do not account for social impacts such as professional displacement, legality, and rebound effects. In addition, AI is not a substitute for all human tasks. Nevertheless, at present, use of AI holds the potential to carry out several major activities at much lower emission levels than can humans. There, get to see the charts. So this is carbon footprint for text writing. This is Bloom writing one page. This is ChatGPT writing one page. This is a laptop computer for a duration of a human writing one page. You see it's significantly higher. A desktop computer for the duration of a human writing one page. A human from India writing one page. I don't know what that is. And a human from the US writing one page, and I don't know what this is, right? I don't know why a human from the US writing one page is different from a desktop, but it's in here, and if you want to take a look, there's this study. It's probably down in here, but it's already 11:22. And this has been covered before. But again, like I would be just as critical of any of the methodology in here as I would be in the the methodology in not here, right? Like it's important to dial in. It's important to look at things like what are the limitations? What is the methodology? How did they go about doing it, right? The big study that everybody's crowing about now is one that had that is drawing conclusions from 54 test subjects in Boston, right? Which is not indicative of much. It could be indicative of something, but it isn't in and of itself indicative of something. But most people, many people, just read the headline, and because it agrees with their cognitive bias, they go ahead and that's the end of the discussion. And then they get mad when you tell them they're wrong. They get mad they get mad when they think you tell them that they're wrong. Ironic, don't you think, Larry? Oh. All right, and that's basically all this is. So, which model should I use? Not all models are equal. ChatGPT allows paying users to toggle. Yeah, this is here it is. Yeah, okay, so we got to this. This is this study. Is Soker mentioned? Yes, Gudrun Soker. So the person that they're referring to in this article is this same person from this same study. Right? But there's something of a trade off between size, energy use, and accuracy, according to Soker, who tested the performance of 14 AI language models from Meta, Alibaba, DeepSeek, and a Silicon Valley startup called Deep Cogito in a paper published Thursday. Soker and her co author, Maximilian Donner, couldn't test popular models such as OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google's Gemini because those companies don't share their code publicly, aka they aren't open source. Exactly, Cosmic. A preprint at best shows that further scientific inquiry may be necessary. No one should base their opinions off a preprint. Exactly. Like it's again, it's fine, right? It's good information. Now it needs to be replicated, right? Once we can replicate it, then we know that the science behind it is good. And then if variations on the study all lead to the same kind of conclusion, then what we have is a preponderance of evidence. Once we have a preponderance in evidence, we can generally draw a conclusion, right? 100% of scientists do not agree that man made climate change is a thing, but 97% do. So we're confident that man made climate change is a thing, right? Like it's that kind of stuff. And then the rest is just talking about that thing that we already did. Using AI doesn't just mean going to a chatbot and typing in a question. You're also using AI every time an algorithm organizes your social media feed, recommends a song, or filters your spam email. We may not even realize it because a lot of this is just hidden from us. If you're not a ChatGPT power user, these behind the scenes algorithms probably represent the bulk of your AI usage, and there's not much you can do about it other than using the internet less. It's up to the companies that are integrating AI into every aspect of our digital lives to find ways to do it with less energy and damage to the planet. Yes, at least they got to the proper conclusion, right? Putting carbon footprint, putting recycling, putting all these things onto the end users, the consumers, is propaganda, right? It's propaganda by the companies because the biggest carbon footprints in the world are like the United States military is a huge carbon footprint, right? But that people don't bring that up. They put it on you. Use AI less because you are screwing up the environment. All right. Researchers use once forgotten tech, press X to doubt, to completely transform energy grid. We're building on something that has a long track record. Feels kind of clickbaity. Let's look. Inlight Energy is using an old tool to make great strides in the future of energy storage with iron salt batteries. These decades old batteries have never been used on a large or commercial scale until now. As more utility companies shift to clean energy sources, allegedly, There's, depending on who you ask, apparently, there's one big problem. The weather doesn't always cooperate. The sun doesn't always shine. The sun always shines. Sun always shines so far. It's just you might not be able to see it. And the wind doesn't always blow. True. So what do? Long duration storage can help make energy from renewable sources accessible at any time. However, the dominant lithium ion battery is not realistic for this use. Enter Enlight Energy and the iron salt battery. Former Stanford researcher Antonio Backley Bockley, one of the two, spent 8 years looking through existing battery models to find one that he could use to transform the grid. Then he saw the iron salt battery, initially developed in the 1980s for powering electric cars. In the 1980s. Remember what was taken from you. Backley founded Enlight Energy and got to work creating a viable lithium-ion battery alternative. The batteries are inexpensive, easy to produce, and store electricity well. New models can hold up to 20 times the energy of the cells from the 80s. Enlight has tested a 100-cell model. This was our first module. 100-cell module. This was our first module, and it just worked. We're building on something that has a long track record, so we don't have to reinvent. By building on existing knowledge, the team creates tech that improves the reliability of affordable energy sources. By building on existing knowledge? What? Inexpensive storage is what will truly make wind and solar a competitive total solution versus fossil fuels, not just in California, but everywhere in the world. Iron salt batteries offer advantages that make them more appealing compared to lithium ion. They have a much lower fire risk, right? Like especially if you're a member of the James Gang, you know that you have seen many examples of a burning Tesla, right? And that has to do with how lithium ion batteries work, right? Like that's why. They have a much lower fire risk because they don't use a flammable electrolyte. On top of that, the materials used to make them are inexpensive and can be sourced domestically, keeping expenses down. Yeah, if it's just iron and salt, speak to me of iron salt batteries. Iron redox flow battery. 70% round trip energy efficiency. Other long duration storage technologies such as pumped hydro provide 80% round trip energy efficiency. Pumped hydro is where you, when you have extra energy in the grid, use it to pump water up into like a water tower type situation. And then when you need it, you let it out and it runs a turbine and puts it out. So, what up, Biggie? You're not gonna like we don't have 100% because you can't, right? Like because all systems lose something over time, because that's the way the universe works. And no perpetual motion machines here, right? So, but still, 70% of whatever you would lose is, I don't know. In my opinion, it's a viable conclusion. Entropy. No, I just want to know what goes into them. 2 tanks, uncharged state store electrolytes of dissolved iron ions. The electrolyte is pumped into the battery cell, which consists of, what up, Noah? Consists of 2 separate half cells, electrochemical, placed at the electrodes within each half cell. These can be carbon-based porous felts, paper, or cloth. Porous felts are often utilized as the surface area of the electrode is high. Bipolar and monopolar plates are typically carbon-based materials. So yeah. So it's iron, ions, salts, and carbon-based materials. I love this for us. We should do this. By pairing this revamped storage system with wind and solar, Enlight Energy can form a power grid that costs less than one that runs on fossil fuels. While other solutions specialize in either daily cycling or long duration storage, our batteries are differentiated in the ability to do both. I want to say also that one of them Scandinavian countries, was it Norway? Denmark? Finnish. The Finns, a very Finnish thing. Big sand battery starts storing wind and solar energy in crushed soapstone. This is the battery, as far as I can tell. The world's largest sand battery has started working in the southern Finnish town of, I'm not going to try to say that, Pornainen? Finish him. Capable of storing 100 megawatt hours of thermal energy from solar and wind sources, it will enable residents to eliminate oil from their district heating network, thereby cutting emissions by nearly 70%. Our goal is to be climate neutral by 2035, and the sand battery is a major step toward that. Industrial scale solution. Consumption of wood chips are set to drop by around 60% as a result, while the existing biomass boiler will continue to serve as a backup and support the sand battery during peak demand hours. Super cool, right? The Finnish. The Finns have constructed the world's largest sand battery. What up, Princess Kimberly? It's allegedly capable of storing 100 megawatt hours, right? Like, we have solutions, right? Like, it's not that we don't have solutions. It's the incentives aren't there, right? How do we incentivize the behavior? Sure. Because what is sand if not crushed glass? What up, old lobster? I mean, that is an option that would incentivize behavior, right? Amazon's Zoox boost robotaxi production ahead of first commercial launch in Las Vegas. Being someone who carried batteries for radios and other equipment for a long time, I cannot imagine it. Yeah, well, it probably not appropriate for that, right? That's why they build it like, on the ground. And it's just a big, and you could do like, this is one. Why couldn't you make like a bunch of these? I'm going to assume that this big empty area behind the tree line here is probably going to do that once they, once this is proven. Or maybe not. Maybe this is sufficient for the town, and then that's it. And God only knows what's going to happen here. Maybe the solar array is going to go in there. Where was I? God only knows what I do without you. Zoox, the autonomous vehicle startup owned by Amazon, has opened a serial production facility in the San Francisco Bay Area. The facility will help Zoox grow its robotaxi fleet, eventually producing 10,000 vehicles a year once it's at full scale. Zoox is gearing up to start public rides in Las Vegas earlier this year, with San Francisco to follow. Oh, no. It's in Hayward, California, to increase its robotaxi fleet significantly. The facility is currently producing one robotaxi per day, but it expects to accelerate that rate over the coming year. At full scale, it will have the capacity to assemble 10,000 robotaxis a year, with roughly 3 robotaxis being produced per hour, the company said. Zoox did not provide a timeline for reaching that production level. We don't need to crank out a vehicle every minute because we're not selling these things. Amazing. It's just absolutely amazing how they get it. Oh. You mean when you don't have a profit incentive, you can work at more reasonable rates? What? What? Zoox need more of its toaster-shaped robotaxis to roll off the assembly line in order to fulfill its mission of deploying a commercial ride-hailing service in the U.S. Zoox, founded 11 years ago and purchased by Amazon for $1.3 billion in 2020, began testing its robotaxis in public roads in 2023. Imagine how Elon feels right now. Zoox is racing to catch up to Alphabet's Waymo. Oh, wait, what about Tesla? Aren't you concerned about Tesla? Which operates the only fully public driverless ride-hailing service in the U.S. Waymo has aggressively expanded into new U.S. markets in recent years and provides more than 250,000 paid trips each week across Phoenix, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Austin, Texas. And this is what? Like when someone, oh, look at the Waymo. It got stuck and it's doing something weird, and this means your system doesn't work. 250,000 trips per week. Your little video is a outlier. It's a blip. Evan said Zoox is very proud of Waymo's progress. It's a glitch. Because everything else works perfectly. It's a threat. There's a threat to the taxi car serial killer business. I mean, that is true. Elon, here we go. Here's Tesla. Elon Musk's Tesla is poised to launch its robotaxi service in Austin on June 22nd, 2 days from now. Though Musk cautioned that date could shift as the company is being super paranoid about safety. That's why. That's what it is. 18 months tops. What up, James? Oh. Zoox is gearing up to launch public rides in Las Vegas, its first commercial market, later this year. San Francisco is expected to follow 2026. Additional locations in Austin, Miami coming in the next few years. And again, this is why, like, you see them in warm weather states, because snow is going to be a challenge. Snow, ice is going to be a challenge, right? So where you have that as a consistent weather issue, that's going to, there's going to be some friction with rolling that out. 5 Waymo cars got torched during the protest. Allegedly. I didn't see it. And if they did, like, I mean, there are concerns about about people taking your picture or video, right? Like using cameras to take your picture and video. Um, and that's why those ice dudes wear masks. So, I mean, maybe the ice dudes weren't the Waymos, right? Because they're very concerned about their identity. So, maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Maybe, old lobster. Maybe we shouldn't live in a voluntary police state. Maybe we shouldn't point cameras at our neighbors' houses. Opinions vary. Masks, like, I enjoyed wearing a gaiter. Um, I really liked it, and like, with the beard, it makes mask fitting particularly problematic. One more time for the culture, as the kids say. Waymo is live in Atlanta, but only for a limited early access group. The broader public will likely see full availability later this summer, confined to the initial pilot zone for now. Yeah, yeah. And that's that's how you roll one of those out. Zoox has developed its own custom built carriage style vehicles where up to 4 passengers face each other and there's no steering wheel. What up, Resite? Mm-hmm. I mean, that wouldn't happen, right? There's no evidence that anyone in law enforcement ever behaved poorly in a during a protest to in any way, you know. It's not entrapment. What's the word I'm looking for? Where you do something and then hold someone else responsible for it. There's no evidence of that. So when it careens out of control, you can stare in the eyes of your loved ones as they scream. Instead of taking control with a steering wheel or cooperation. It's cooperation. What up, one grader? Framing, sure. Provocateur, sure. There's no evidence of that, right? We definitely have never seen anything like that occur. So it's definitely not possible that any members of the law enforcement engage in any of the destruction of and fire of those vehicles at all. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. What do we got? 14 minutes? 14 minutes? How AI sees us. Picture a human face. The eyebrows are furrowed and the eyes wide. The lips are pressed together, turning downward at one corner. Maybe that, Resute, maybe it just spontaneously combusted. Just due to a thermal event. There was a thermal event. The lips are pressed together, turning downward at one corner. When AI sees this face, it evaluates the feature using a combination of metrics: how wrinkled the nose is, how squinted the eyes are, whether the jaw is clenched. Then it correlates those features with a range of emotions along with other states such as confusion and engagement. The conclusion: this expression is associated with anger, sadness, and surprise. Not only can AI now make these assessments with remarkable human like accuracy. Again, this is the New York Times, who are not known to be particularly pro AI. It can make millions of them in an instant. AI's superpower is its ability to recognize and interpret patterns, to sift through raw data, and by comparing it to vast data sets, to spot trends, relationships, and irregularities. As humans, we constantly generate patterns in the sequence of our genes, the beating of our hearts, the repetitive motion of our muscles and joints. Everything about us, from the cellular level to the way our bodies move through space, is a source of grist for AI to mine. And so, it's no surprise that, as the power of the technology has grown, some of its most startling new abilities lie in its perception of us: physical forms, our behavior, and even our psyches. Consider a small part of the human face: the eyes. AI ocular tracking has gotten very good at analyzing tiny involuntary eye movements, such as pupil dilation and blinking. In some cases, it can predict where our gaze is drifting before we even know it ourselves. By noting how our eyes move, and comparing that information with thousands of recordings of people driving, AI can help bus and truck manufacturers determine when drivers are or are about to be distracted. By tracking where we look and how long our gaze lingers, it allows video game developers to fine tune user experience so minutely that players can aim a weapon using only their eyes. AI has also made lie detection technology more sophisticated. A traditional polygraph measures changes in the subject's body, heart rate, sweating, and blood pressure as they answer a series of questions. But now an infrared camera can measure pupil dilation and eye movements during questioning. And that information can then be uploaded to a server where AI reads the data and determines a credibility score. This technology has been used to hire United Nations personnel and to question suspects in police investigations. AI is already revolutionizing. I have not. AI is already revolutionizing the way doctors look for patterns inside our bodies. A radiologist screening for tuberculosis might look at an x ray and notice, for example, enlarged lymph nodes or fluid around the lungs. Or, in the image below, they might see a tiny nodule about the size of a pencil eraser that could possibly be lung cancer. Can you point to the nodule? The AI can. But AI can look at a grayscale image and detect differences beyond the ability of the naked human eye. It could see the initial shape of a nodule forming and predict whether it was cancerous or benign, or look at the patchy white area in the x ray and determine whether it was more likely to be associated with tuberculosis or pneumonia. AI can also help screen for cardiovascular disease, which is particularly meaningful for patients whose symptoms, like shortness of breath, are so common that they are often missed by doctors. Developers have trained one AI model to specifically predict those often misdiagnosed cases and recommend certain patients for further care before they leave the hospital or clinic. Blood work is one of our most important forms of bodily data. It's easy to see why this has proved irresistible as a target for healthcare startups. Blood testing is such a rich source of information that even marginal improvements could revolutionize the medical field and save lives. Researchers are training AI to spot patterns in our blood, diagnosing cancer and heart disease. AI can also streamline the process of delivering blood transfusions, predicting supply from blood banks and demand from patients. Our blood keeps an internal log of all the pathogens that have breached our immune defenses, recorded in the form of antibodies and receptors on white blood cells that can recognize those antibodies. One AI model has been trained to find patterns in the DNA of the receptors, which indicate responses to specific diseases. With autoimmune diseases like lupus, the immune system attacks itself. Diagnosis can be a lengthy process, not Theranos, relax yourself, requiring physical exams, a range of lab tests, and ruling out other possible conditions. The researchers are using AI to sequence the immune system's receptors and figure out which cells protect someone from tetanus or the flu and which are attacking their own body. The goal is to diagnose certain autoimmune diseases more quickly and accurately. Thank you, One Great Earth. I appreciate you. That's the point, right? Like it's supposed to be podcasty. You can have me on in the background. Oh, you subscribed. Thank you. We didn't get an alert because Twitch do be twitching. So thank you for the sub. I appreciate you very much. And if you want to be cool like One Great Earth and support the channel, it's only $5.99 or free with the Twitch Prime, or you can be gifted a sub by one of our beautiful community members. Our bodies also generate countless patterns with our physical movements. AI is currently being used to optimize training for athletes, to improve prosthetic limbs, to correct movements in physical therapy, and even to analyze many bodies at once. For example, to monitor crowd density and flow during public gatherings. But the most novel and creative use of AI in biomechanics might be in animation. Traditionally, animators had to create a digital skeleton beneath a character's outer layer, then manually set the character's poses. AI can now create incredibly realistic, smooth movements that the animator can manipulate quickly and experiment with before committing to a certain pose. With one AI tool, you can move a character's foot and the rest of the body will move accordingly, much like a human does. The animator acts almost like a choreographer, setting a few poses and allowing the AI to fill in the frames between them. Animators can easily generate different kinds of movement, like walking, running, or jumping. AI also allows an animator to apply physics to a character's body, automatically calculating the center of mass, weight distribution, and momentum. For a character doing a backflip, for example, an animator can adjust where the figure lands, which automatically changes the arc of the flip. If an animator wants a character to jump higher, he can tweak the maximum height. The model will automatically adjust how forcefully the character jumps from the ground. 2 minutes. The foundational data set in our bodies is the firing of neurons, which creates everything we think and are. Researchers are experimenting with AI to produce sentences from the brains of ALS patients who have lost the ability to speak, to objectively measure how much pain a person is experiencing, and to treat Parkinson's with brain pacemakers. In one fascinating 2024 study that built on earlier research, AI was fed an image of blood flow in the brain that had been generated by functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI. When a person looked at at an image of a cat, AI was able to read the fMRI data and generate a very realistic image of a similar cat. Visual recognition or visual reconstruction AI still has limitations, but the study suggestion felt profound. What if this technology could ultimately work as a kind of translator for our brains, recreating detailed memories or dreams, allowing others to see what we see? The patterns generated by our neurons are the ultimate frontier in human self knowledge, a system so complex that even neuroscientists haven't fully deciphered it. The human brain, like AI, has been compared to a black box. While we can comprehend its inputs and outputs, the exact machinery remains mysterious to us, too intricate and dynamic to map. Will AI, through its phenomenal powers of pattern recognition, be able to shed light on that mystery? If so, regardless of whether the technology ever achieves so called superintelligence, its great legacy could be what it tells us about our own mind. My thanks to all of you for tuning in to today's episode. I will be back Monday evening. Bum, bum, bum. And where are you? There you are. I will be back Monday evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, which is already in progress. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Saw the movie Her for the first time. I apparently see a completely different movie. What up, Fembox fan? When I watch Her than other people have. People look at Her like it's like some kind of existential horror movie, and I do not. So, thank you all. Y'all are the best. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shuggy loves you. So do I.